Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa. Happy Friday, everyone. I hope you've had a wonderful week and certainly looking forward to a beautiful weekend. Hello, Janice. Nice to see you in the chat. And I've got Melanie in the background with me, in the back of the house, rather. Melanie from Australia. And you guys might remember maybe about 2 months ago now, I'm not sure, 6 weeks maybe, Melanie was on for the first show, and she really, she spoke about her journey through hysterectomy, narcissism, abuse, that sort of stuff, and we're going to be carrying on elective hysterectomy. I hope I said that right. Yeah. So we're going to be hearing more from Melanie as well on that. But before I do, let's just do one or two announcements. Just wait, I've got to pick up my earpod. You see, these things just happen when you don't expect them to fall out of your ears. Anyway, okay, so tonight we have Leo Zagami. Well, tonight for me, 7 p.m. CAT, Central Africa time. Coming on, and then not to forget his book club on Tuesday as well. So grab a copy of his latest book, Confessions of an Illuminati, Volume 12, and join us for Members Book Club on Tuesday. And then what is not on the schedule is a few little surprises. I have Kathy O'Brien coming on tomorrow, Saturday, as well as Sunday. So please join me for that. On Saturday, we're going to be really unpacking the whole MK Ultra scenario. And Kathy is an absolute expert on that. So look forward to chatting with her about that. And then on Sunday, we're going to be chatting again with Kathy. Same time, 5 p.m. CAT, Central African time. And we're going to be talking about healing. You know, she's one of the most amazing people that have gone through so much and also has just come out on the other side, enlightened, evolved, full of love and compassion, which is always beautiful to see. And then on Monday, which is also not on the schedule, is Doug McIntyre from Australia, who is an expert on epigenetics and heterochromia. That's the eye condition we spoke about with Rachel Vaughan last week. And he's going to be chatting with us about that and how that relates to trauma, stuff like that. Interesting topic indeed. So please join us. Busy weekend. Yeah. And yeah, Leo tonight and Kathy on the weekend. I was just trying to think if I actually got everything. And then Doug on Monday. Okay, and so join the membership. You can actually join the membership on Solutions as well, which is where we've been moved to because we've been struck across the knuckles on Ara. But join the membership and we can stream through both the channels anyway. So either one is good. Thank you so much, everybody. And without any further ado, ta-da. Melanie, how are you? So good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, wonderful. And thank you so much, everybody in the chat. Nice to have you here. And I know some of you are Americanos who obviously are having sleepless nights, but I'm happy about that. Yeah, you are, Jessica. Yeah, no. But listen, I mean, the often, and that's what we're hearing, is these the heterochromia is from trauma. You know, it's created through trauma as well. So often if someone is a drunk, he's probably been traumatized. Usually a cover for that. Anyway, it'd be interesting to chat with him again. So Melanie, wonderful to have you back. And I'm very happy that you are recovering after your surgery. How are you doing?
Sorry, I just lost you then. Yes, recovering from my surgery. Is that what you said?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you there for a second. I missed the question.
Okay. No, I was just saying, how are you after your surgery?
Yeah, I'm recovering slowly, but very well. I just had my latest checkup, and she's very happy with how it's all coming along. So it's good. It was very interesting just seeing the pictures of the insides and all that happened. It was a bit of a shock, some of the stuff that was happening on the inside. So I really feel 100% it was the right decision to go ahead and have the surgery, and I'm glad I didn't wait any longer to have it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's great. Glad you're healing and recovering. I think maybe just for those who haven't seen your previous show, and we do have the link to Melanie's previous show in the description. So please, if you haven't watched it yet, it's super interesting, really good to watch. So you can catch it then. But Melanie, maybe just for the sake of those who are here, would you maybe just like to recap for us on your journey thus far?
Yeah. Basically, in 1997, I had an accident, a head injury with a large television that landed on my head, and it caused me, what still does, cause me a lot of trouble. With that came along, I didn't really think that I was worthy of much. I saw myself pretty much as two people, the person before the accident and the person after, and the one after I didn't really think held much value. And I think that played a large part then in what happened when I then got married. I ended up with a very controlling narcissist of a husband, and it didn't end very well at all with that either. Yeah, and that really took a lot on me as a person, trying to rebuild from pretty much had sort of, if there was a tiny little spark left, that was all that was left of me as a person after going through all of that. And I wasn't someone that even knew about narcissism until leaving the marriage, or the marriage left me, and all the counselling. And it was when I sort of came across that term and the sort of treatments, and that what was my normal really was not normal, and shouldn't be what people have to ever go through. That was the main part of it. But then thinking that I sort of got out of that, I didn't. I just continued on the same journey, meeting similar people. So it's been a long road to get to where I am now. Sorry?
I want to maybe, this word narcissism is such a, in my opinion, a word that is very often thrown around when, we all have a little bit of narcissistic tendencies within us, right? We can all be grumpy and say a bad word or insult someone from time to time, right? That doesn't make you a narcissist. But I'd be interested to hear your explanation as someone who's been married to a full-blown narcissist. What is it really like? What did you experience? And it makes but just before we go there, I want to just backtrack to when you got hit on the head, with the TV set. For those of you who missed that, Melanie was at a local pub, hanging out with friends, and she was on her way to the bathroom. And while she was on her way there, the TV set mounted on the wall of the pub fell on her head and literally changed her life in that moment. And of course, as you'll hear in the other story, you'll hear that, or in her previous show, that how no one took responsibility. They were completely refused to be accountable for that. And they're after the journey. And as you say, waking up from that and being this completely different person, someone insecure, someone unsure of themselves, doubting themselves. And that to me is so important just to highlight, because it's when we feel that way about ourselves, right, that we're going to attract people into our lives who match those lower frequencies as well, which is very interesting, that after that, when you started feeling that way about yourself, right, you met this dude who became your husband and who's a full-blown narcissist. So I'd love you just to talk us through what that's really like, living with a narcissist, a true narcissist.
Yeah, it snuck up on me. At first, I thought he was somebody that really understood where I was coming from. He seemed very compassionate, very patient, and cared for me. I was really unwell a lot of the time, and looking back now, that should have been a warning in itself. Like, why was somebody so fit and healthy, so happy, just to sort of be stuck with somebody that was quite an invalid at the time? And it wasn't compassion that I was seeing. Well, I thought I was seeing, but I think he felt good when I was sick. Like it gave, because later on in my journey, when I started getting some improvements or better along the way, that really upset him. He wasn't happy with it at all. He really enjoyed me when I was pretty much just a vegetable that didn't have any opinion, didn't want to talk about, never questioned anything. I just was happy to sit on the couch and watch whatever he was even watching. I didn't even really care what we watched. I really wasn't a person at all. And he loved that one. He loved that person that wasn't even a person. It's hard to put into words.
It's so interesting because, again, it's just apparent to me how it's like, when you speak to survivors in the system, it's like once they've been violated by someone, it's like there's just all these predators that come sneaking up on them, right? It's like the minute that your spirit became sick, I want to say that, or your soul, not your spirit. I even question what could have happened at that time that you had that horrible thing happen where that TV fell on your head, because the more we're hearing, it's almost like in that moment of complete vulnerability, was it possible something attached itself to you, that changed the way you thought about yourself, because trauma can do that, right? That was quite a traumatic thing. So interesting that when you meet the guy, it's like he immediately recognized, here's someone that is very pliable in my hands, right?
Yes. Well, I thought that we were a great couple because we didn't really argue, and I thought, that was all good things. What I'd heard some of my friends were with, I thought, well, that's not what I have, so I'm the lucky one. And it wasn't until I started feeling a bit better or got my pain a bit more managed that I started wanting more things or wanting to contribute more or be a part more. And that's when it really started to hit home that I wasn't to have an opinion. I wasn't to ever say anything. And if I did, that's when all hell would just break loose. Just next level over the top reactions. Just
what type of
property,
reactions are we?
Just
all right. Wow.
That's where it began with the property and the swearing and the name calling and that stuff. Sort of, you could sort of shrug that off and get over it because you just put that down to that was truly bad behavior on his behalf. But when it got to the point where it was sort of undermining you all the time, and a lot of it I didn't even find out till after the fact, where he'd set certain situations up where I just blindly just fell into them and did exactly what he wanted, and then I presented poorly when I'd actually been set up by and triggered until you finally just snap, and people would see you just snap and think, what is her problem? He was very clever.
Gaslighting.
And I wasn't.
Classic gaslighting, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I these words weren't on my radar. I didn't know of this sort of behavior. I thought that I'd married someone that, we were each other's team, had each other's back. And so many things I found out after the fact where he just really set me up for failure. And I'm actually surprised that I actually had any friends or anybody because eventually they sort of all saw through it, which I was very grateful for. But even when I was, we ended up going to court through our divorce, it was very messy. When I was hearing what he had to say and reading it, I was thinking that he was amazing for putting up with someone as bad as me. It just read that convincingly, and it took a bit to go, hang on a second, that's just sheer false. Like, those events didn't even happen, or that's not even me that you're talking about. It was
Was
just
he
so
was he
convincing.
was he deliberately lying, or was he taking
Blatantly.
situations that were already there and maybe twisting them to
Some of the
sound like?
situations, it was tricky because some of the situations actually weren't even about me. They were about other people. And that's when I knew that. I thought, hang on, that wasn't even me that you're talking about. And other ones, he played the victim. So it was almost pathetic towards the end. It just was such the victim role when he had everything, and I gave my all, and energy was always an issue for me since the accident. I didn't have much, and I would give my all to try and make him happy and do everything and to try and please him, and you could never get it right. You're always in the wrong. It was You couldn't win, and it just took so much effort to sort of be 2 steps ahead of everything, to sort of feel how the mood's going to be today, and and just you get so creative in trying to find different ways to manage things that I didn't even realize how. I stopped even dreaming. I just decided to want what he dreamt for, because then, one, it was likely to happen, and two, I wouldn't be disappointed, because if I wanted anything at all different, if I was going to actually get it, I have to work so hard to get it that it took the fun out of it, and it lost all joy, or it just was sabotaged so badly that it just ruined. And so I just started wanting what he wanted. Even down to pictures on the wall. I just wanted, you want Ninja Turtles? I want Ninja Turtles. You want Conan the Barbarian? I hate that movie. We put Conan the Barbarian on the walls, just whatever he wanted. And bit by bit, it just chipped away at who I was. So that when it did come to the marriage ending, I really struggled most with trying to find out what I liked. I had no idea. When it came to painting a wall, I didn't even know what color to paint. I didn't know what I liked. I just didn't know how to be. I knew how to be us and we, but I didn't know how to be me or what I had no idea. And that's when I started having little panic attacks, because it was so overwhelming trying to learn who this person was, who I didn't recognize. And that's, for me, what the true narcissism is, when they take all of you, right? And they're not careful with it. They just use and abuse it and belittle, and they take your light and their sparkle.
Absolutely.
Just,
Absolutely.
and it's a really
It's so true.
hard work to get back.
Yeah. It's so true, because, the way I see that is that the narcissist has there's a reason they've become a narcissist, right? The reason they've become a narcissist to begin with is lack of love, lack of empathy. If we just look at the upper echelon of this planet who control us right now, we are in absolute under narcissistic control as a planet. And if we look at the amount of SRA that these people have been through as kids, the first thing they get taught to do is lose all empathy. So the torture, the blood, the pain, the unaliving that these people have to do on smaller children, smaller humans, animals and stuff, completely takes them out of that. They have no empathy, no compassion. So that absolutely brings on the narcissist. Now, I'm not saying every situation is that extreme, but in any household, that can happen, where you have a narcissistic parent. And instead of healing from that, you perpetuate the cycle. So there's a reason, he was that, which is complete lack of love. And the only way he learned or thought he could get by was to feed off the energy of others. So he would be an expert then at smelling out, sniffing out, like a predator, like a lion, sniffs out exactly where its prey is, who's the weakest, is there blood? Oh, we're going to go for the blood first, right? Because that's more vulnerable. It's easier to get. And then, of course, he has to have a strategy where he completely love bombs. So probably for the first 6 months or so, there's just love bombing. There's this complete ability to understand your emotions and walk through dreams with you and make plans and things, right? And completely woo you into believing that it's almost like they use dark magic, I'm sure. I don't say they're deliberately doing it, but with all that manipulation and control and the intention, right, that they're putting out there is all about that, because they've lost the ability to understand that they too have their light. They've just got to go and seek it, within. Yeah. And then, of course, gaslighting becomes the order of the day. So anything you can do that's going to get you charged up negatively is going to be his fuel, because that's what it's like his chocolate. That's what he eats. That's what he survives with, is that energy that's full of pain and sorrow. They harvest the sorrow. It's literally what they do. They're harvesters of sorrow. Yeah.
When it came to our court process, I didn't understand why I had agreed to a 50-50 split, which I was entitled to at least 75. And I thought 50-50, then we can just both walk away. And he didn't want to do it. He drew it all out through court. He was determined that I had to pay him out. And when he was the only one with the wage, I didn't have a wage. He stopped paying all the mortgages. Everything went into default. It just, we could have walked away with a nice substantial amount of money each. And instead, and he told the court it was his intention to financially ruin me. And I thought, why? What possibly? He'd met someone else it was, I think, 3 years in the court system. He'd met somebody else and he wanted to marry her and all that. And I thought, if you were so in love with this new wife to be, why would you want me still in the picture at all? Why not just 50-50 be done with it? I couldn't understand the need to keep punishing me over and over for something I didn't even do. I didn't cheat. I didn't do anything. I was supportive. I was actually really proud of the kind of wife that I was. I felt that I was very loyal and I played by the rules, and I thought I was a genuinely nice wife. I didn't understand why I still needed to be punished. And so far, like he was the one that ended it. He just called all of the shots continually, and even after it was all done, it was still going. Even when it came down to the last bit of the joint bank account and the courts had ruled the splitting, and we both had to sign it in order for the bank to release it. He refused to even go to the bank. He just would not let me go, even that far years after our relationship ended. And that was sort of, it was helped me heal as well, because I just thought, what kind of person is this? I can't possibly, no part of me wants this in my life anymore. I don't want him back. I don't wish to have that sort of energy around me whatsoever. But it didn't make any sense to me what the need was.
Your crime was you healed. You started healing. Your crime was you rejected him. Your crime was you started calling him out on his bullshit. And of course, those frequencies are literally indigestible to the narcissist, because he wants that pain and sorrow. So what he's going to do through his control mechanisms of all the time invoking fear, because now he knows how to control you. So he's going to pull all those strings. So even if he has someone else in his life, he's still going to try and hurt you, because how dare you actually reject him? How dare you swivel out of his grip? How dare you? And now I'm going to go after you 10 times harder because you dared to get away from me. So that's the type of energy that they work with. It's very dark, and it doesn't make sense to a normal thinking person, because, as you quite rightfully say, you're a great wife. You know, you did everything, but you complied with him, right? So as long as you were complying, that was what he wanted. He could manipulate you in any which way he could. And the minute you like started resisting, like now he can't do that anymore. And that he didn't like.
No, that's true.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
It's a shock. It's a shock when you realize that's because I took my promise very seriously. I thought, you know, till death do us part. I struggled with that breaking, even though I thought for a long time I didn't matter. I didn't count at all. I don't think for really, even when it came down to our wedding day, he chose all the colours. He chose everything. Like, he overrode what I wanted. So even like, he picked what he was having, his men and all that, and I didn't even have a say on the writing on the wall was there. It just
I can't believe. I mean, like
anything.
your wedding. Did you at least get to choose your dress? Please tell me you got to choose your dress.
Yeah, there was a fight over that because he didn't want my parents to contribute any money to our wedding because his parents weren't contributing anything. And my mum said, you know, you're my only daughter, and your father and I want to do this for you. So we don't care what he says. This is a gift from us, and we would like to get you your dress. So I got my dress. So I was very grateful for that. But he was controlling right back then. And my dad, he did our wedding. He was a reverend, and part of his, he had to use the word God in the ceremony. That was part of his qualification, part of his license. And my husband refused. He just didn't want him saying it at all. And so it almost came down to that my dad wasn't even going to be able to do the wedding ceremony for us. I thought he just wouldn't give me anything. Right? And it wasn't that he cared that much for God or no God or anything, but he knew that my dad legally had to say God. And he just wouldn't. And so he took the joy out of even having my dad do such a special thing for us. So looking back on all of that, I think, gosh, you ignored some big red flags along the way. He made me work for everything.
Wow. I mean, it's quite crazy when we look back and we think about it, right? The control. And it's like, I'd be interested to know, just as a matter of interest, if your dad was marrying you guys and he was a reverend, how are your parents feeling about this wedding? They must have seen red flags.
There was a bit of trouble just prior to it with his family. His mother caused a lot of trouble, and he sort of stood up for me in that sense and did the right thing. So they sort of thought, oh, that was quite honourable in that part. But then when it started coming down to the ceremony part and my dad and that, there was a bit of, oh, you know, a bit of compromise. Like, there are both of you going into this, and you know, he was all about, you know, you get married and you become one person, and my dad was very much, no, you don't become one person, you still remain two people, and you bring out the best in each other. And you know, it's not about losing yourself in each other. He was quite adamant that wasn't healthy, that the love wasn't about losing each other, it was about supporting each other as two people in a marriage, in a life together. And but they are the same. Looking back, they've also said there's some things that they sort of dismissed or thought, you know, maybe it wasn't that bad. But he was very good at putting the charm on, and I'll protect your daughter, and you know, she's all I want in my life, and I love her, blah blah blah. And he was very good at painting this picture, and they were worried for me. I wasn't. It's hard to say without sounding disrespectful for myself, but I didn't really come across as a catch. I was very unwell at the time. There wasn't any sort of promise that I was going to get out of the state that I was in. It had been many years already in not a very functioning way. So for someone to come along that thought that they could bring me some joy, could share a life, it's difficult to say how it was at the time, and looking back, and Yeah, because so much of it he did present was there was more pros than cons. If anything, we all thought he was a bit weird about the wedding, but we just thought he's coming from his own issues, and maybe it's just so important to him that he gets this. But we didn't really know anything about coercive control or the mannerism. He didn't present as controlling as it came later on down the track. He hit it quite well for a while. And then he even hit it for me in the sense of making me think that it was all in my best interest, that it's what I wanted to, that, you know, I'm not well enough to really know what's best, so just trust. So it took a lot to see past all that I was hearing that wasn't true. And it's partly it's also with a head injury, it was a lot of head pain, it hurt to physically think. So it was easier in some ways to have someone do the thinking. And on the whole, it was okay until it wasn't. And when it wasn't, it really wasn't. It turned bad. And
I can imagine, especially. Sorry, carry on, Melanie.
I felt very stuck along the way, because by this time I was no longer working because he was supporting, and we were, wherever his job took us, we went. And I'd had I had property that I was earning the income off that, was supporting me, and then he lost that basically for me, so I lost my form of income, and then I became very dependent on him, and my choices were I either stay with him or I have to return home to my parents, and I just couldn't see how that could be positive at my age. I just couldn't see a way out, and I got really, really trapped in that feeling of, oh, what have I done here now? I've got no money and no way of getting out of this situation.
Wow.
It was very difficult.
So, you know, when you look, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Yeah. But I was just saying, it's so difficult. It's so frustrating to look back, right, and see how calculated this entire move was from when he met you and sensed, okay, here's someone that I can mold into everything. And especially since you just had your accident, you know, I mean, gosh, what a better battery for him to use, literally, for your energy. And you can see how the love bombing, right, then the isolating from your family, the destructive, the way he I'm not sure what happened with your property, but you know, you obviously gave him control over that, and he kind of destroyed that. He destroyed your relationships, friendships, and completely isolated you, and got you completely dependent upon him.
Yeah.
Right? So to that point where you become his slave, literally.
Yeah.
Wow.
He sabotaged any chance of me trying to get out and to better myself in any way. Just every step of the way, he'd block it. Some things I found out about and I could sort of sidestep around, but majority, I just didn't know what was happening, and I couldn't see any way of getting out. And there was, by this stage, humiliation. I didn't want to really admit just how stuck I was, and I tried to justify that, you know, he was working a lot, so I had free time and locked at home, but it was still an independence for me. I had my animals that I could care for, and I did that well. And with the Joeys particularly, they were a novelty, so people wanted to come see me, which I don't think he particularly enjoyed. He liked the fact that it was something different and people thought it was cool, but he didn't like that it made me popular, in a sense that the kids wanted to come over and their mums would come over, and then I formed friendships through them. And it just, the Joeys and things were probably why I stayed the most, because I couldn't see how I'd be able to continue doing that without the financial support with him. And if I came back home, then all of that would be over, and it's just too restrictive. And it's hard because all of it, when I think it was just so restrictive, every step of the way was, I already had so many restrictions due to my accident and all that involves. And then to marry someone that was just so controlled, even down to I wasn't allowed to have a fringe. I couldn't wear coloured nail polish. I could only wear black tops, and I had to dress how he wanted me to dress. Like, there was no freedom in just expressing yourself. I cut my own hair, wherefore he would get his cut at the salon each week. We always prioritized him in everything. Like, he got the new stuff, I got the hand-me-downs. And I just tried to make it work. That's why he couldn't take, when I was doing the animals, I was good with them. They responded to me, and I had a purpose and a commitment, and people respected that. It wasn't what others didn't have the time to do it or the confidence to even do it. And it was something I, one, really enjoyed, and two, it was a little lifesaver for me. It kept me going.
I can well imagine. At what point did you realize he wasn't Team Melanie? What was the thing? I mean, and especially, and I ask you this because in such a progressive breakdown, one doesn't even notice it while it's happening. It's others can see it. The ones, your loved ones can see it. They get worried, oftentimes they will try and intervene, but very often we ignore them. So when did you realize he was not Team Melanie?
I think the first time was with the property. Originally, it was coming from my money, and he, for tax purposes and all that, the money people that we saw were his family. Financial planners were his family, and they said they wanted to put my house just in his name at first, and I said no to that, thankfully. But then, yeah, we started due to the financial all that sort of thing happening. I started a new medication too, the dexamphetamines, and it's like a little light switch turned on in my head, and I woke up and I looked at our finances and I went, what's happening here? Like, I thought that we'd invested 10,000 into a portfolio, and I'd said the house was never to be mortgaged against. And then I was looking at it and I thought, it looks like our house is mortgaged against. And more and more this sort of happened, and then we had to do our tax, and the tax people came in and they said to us, I don't think you've got a very good investment here. And I thought, and it turned out there were 3 different avenues that had all said we were in financial trouble. And I brought it up with him and I said, look, we really need to look at this. I think we're about to lose my house. And he just wouldn't talk to me about it. And I said, well, can we just go see someone that's not your family? Just, independent, just really see what's happening, because this is my whole livelihood. This is my income for the rest of my life, this rental income off this. It's really important to me. And his words were, and I'll never forget, was, if you go see an independent financial advisor or anybody, then this marriage is over and I'm divorcing you. What? Like, how is that your response? And as it bit by bit, we were starting to fight about it a lot, where I didn't want to pay any more to these financial advisors. I said, they're just mortgaging more and more money. We don't have it. Forgotten the margin calls of what we couldn't afford it. And his wage was minimal at the time, and I only had the bit of rental income coming in. It just didn't make sense to me. So he went without me, and basically we did. And finally I lost it. We went to my mum and dad. He called up my parents and he said that I was having a mental breakdown, that he was really worried that I needed to be hospitalised, and he pulled out all the things. So they came around to see us, and they were all, what's your problem, Melanie? James is saying that you're overreacting and blah, 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 blah. And I couldn't get anyone to hear me. And I did. I lost it. I just threw the paperwork everywhere. And I just remember screaming, would someone just look at this paperwork? Somebody read it. Stop hearing what he says. Don't listen to what I say. Just read this information. And my mum just looked at it and she went, oh my God. She said to my dad, she's right. She's right. That they're about to lose the house. So, and that was when I really thought he just went to such extremes not to see the truth, not to acknowledge what he'd done, and then to even get my parents involved and to what put me in a mental institution. All of this over, he did this. Like I'd said from the very start, the house was never to be mortgaged against. How was it the full amount? And yeah,
what did they use the money for? They obviously
they
were
put it into
making
more
loans
shares.
against it.
And they put it into more shares and everything. And then there was the global financial crash thing, and it just all went. Because I stopped going to the meetings because I was so angry. I said I refused to spend $600. It was $600 every sort of 6 weeks for a meeting, when our financials weren't changing every 6 weeks. It really was on quite a low wage. And I was like, we need to cancel these meetings and dial it back and find out what's happening, because, did you know that they had mortgaged against all of this? And he's like, yeah, and when I sort of brought it up with them, they told me that I was arrogant for questioning them, that, you're not the financial advisor and you're not well, just, stay pretty, that sort of thing. And it was so dismissive, and I was really angry, and I just couldn't, so I lose my marriage, I lose my house, I lose everything. I just didn't know what to do. And that was the real time that I thought, I really don't matter here at all. And the level that he will go to the greed, the level of greed, all of it just, and
Wow.
with, that was my only sort, and that was to last me, because I wasn't likely going to be able to work for the rest of my life, and this income was supposed to support me, and it was just gone. And so from that day on, I was 100% dependent on what he would let me have. And that's when I really felt the dynamic just changed, where he was now 100% in control.
How long after that before you left him?
I stayed. So I stayed for many years after that. So we were together 15 years all up. So, and he ended it. I didn't even end it. And again, I think, why didn't I? And I can justify it. I think anybody can justify. I really did put it down to, he's not home that much. I get to see my friends each day. I get Joey's. I get my independence, sort of. And I was staying. In the final move, we made a move to Esperance, and that's when our marriage officially ended. We were only there a few months. It was getting more and more difficult, but again, for the first time, I'd stepped into my own. He was working away, and I'd met some new friends there, and little job opportunities were coming my way, and I was starting to really feel good and get I suppose it was the first time in a long time I was beginning to thrive a little bit, and that's when it was very short-lived, because he called it then. So,
absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
He knew he lost control.
And I'm pretty sure it was the Joeys that was it, because one of my friends who had ran a sanctuary, she telephoned me up and said, could you please take 3? We're desperate. We don't have enough carers. And I said, well, yes, I'd love to, because I'm not doing anything. He wouldn't let me work when I was down there in Esperance. And then so I phoned him up and said, I'm going to go get these Joeys, and I didn't ask permission. And I think that was the final nail in the coffin, that I dared to organise this without him.
Breaking free.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I drove all the way to Coolgardie to get them, and he was not happy with me.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I'm so happy you got out of that one. So you obviously have done your healing since then. How long ago was it that you left?
It all ended in 2015. So I then it's another story, but I didn't choose healthy relationships after that. So it's still been a long time. And even now, it's sort of every now and I'm with a nice person now. And sometimes I struggle with his kindness. I don't know how to respond to genuine kindness. So it still plays a factor, even though it's not a factor, if that makes sense. Sometimes I doubt. I question the genuine.
It makes a lot of sense, and love will heal you. Love teaches us. Love heals us. Life will teach us. Love will heal us. So,
definitely.
And I really think that's amazing that you found your person who treats you the way that you absolutely deserve to be treated. That's very amazing.
It's sad that the struggle of handling somebody being kind and nice to you, that was a shock. That you become so accustomed to being treated so horribly that becomes your normal. That was a big eye-opener to realize that I was actually starting to sabotage the good things, because I just didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to respond. It felt weird. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't really believe that this, and I thought all these years afterwards, and you still believe what was sort of pumped into your brain. It's a conscious effort still to go, no.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just amazing that you have someone who's kind. And the only thing that's gonna make you see different is through his actions, his continuous actions.
I'm a big one for that now.
Yes. Words mean so little. Words,
and it took me
people
a long
use
time
words to, people, a narcissist is so slick with his words. Oh my gosh. He is so slick with his words. And especially when he's doing the initial love bombing. I mean, they can con the biggest con artist out there, right? So carry on.
So I was just going to say that was one thing, that the words like "I love you," I really struggled with those words, because I only knew that "I love you" then followed violence and cruelness and horrible things if anybody ever said that to you. So to hear that from someone that actually meant them and meant it in kindness, that was a huge adjustment to not be scared of those words anymore.
Gosh, Melanie, I've actually never heard someone say it like that. And totally, obviously, totally, it makes sense. I always say love and pain are synonymous, because people make love an obsession. But what we feel and what we experience there, that's not love, right? That's craziness masquerading as love. Love is something completely different. But it's so interesting the way you've put that, is that you were so scared because "I love you" meant violence and whatever else,
cruelty
afterwards.
So I thought I'd never actually experienced love like up until my partner now. None of it had been real, but they'd all been very similar in different ways, but all very similar. I thought, how can I be this old and not have experienced actual, genuine, just straight from the heart love? So it's certainly been a learning experience, and I'm still learning, but in so much more positive, and the lightness, just the like I just had this big surgery, and I thought my partner was ridiculous because he bought walkie-talkies, he bought a toilet seat, the raised toilet seat, a poker stick, and bought all these things, and I thought was just way over the top. But he really put thought into how it was, and he knew that my legs aren't very strong at the best of times, so he just bought it, and I used everything that he purchased. I thought, even down to because I thought, why do I need walkie-talkies? And he said, well, no, because if you're not feeling well and your eyes are funny and your head achy, you won't be able to see your phone properly. And he was right. Like, I couldn't. So just to use a walkie-talkie, press one button and go, can you help me? Was amazing. And I thought, that's a real genuine person who's his actions show love. Like everything he does is in love. And that I've never experienced that in a partner before. And I thought, don't make fun of this. I enjoy that somebody cares enough to want to make your life easier. it's a beautiful thing.
I, just through those actions that he's taken, you can see that's in love. He is in love, and it's not about being in love with you and obsessed with you. It's like he's in the vibration of love, and he understands what love would be and do now. And he completely understood your needs because he loves you, right? And that is really beautiful. That is, and I mean, I'm sure he has at least 1,000 reasons every second to love you too, Melanie. This is such a lovely story. I love hearing this.
I was nervous before the surgery because I thought, oh, now I'm going to be sick again, and how's the partner going to respond to that? Is he going to be happy that you're sick? You know, because that was my experience, that my partners all enjoyed me being sick, but he wasn't. You could see on his face that he genuinely, I was more worried for him. He looked so worried and so concerned that he wasn't enjoying me being sick. Like, he was there helping me every step of the way, but he wasn't taking any pleasure in any of it. And that's why I thought, this is healthy, this is normal, this is good.
Wow, yes, that is healthy, babe. That is healthy, very healthy. And I'm so happy you found healthy. I'm so happy for you. Wow, that's beautiful. That really, really is. If he was here right now, I'd give him the biggest hug, just because he's such a cool guy. You know, that's the healed masculine. The healed masculine does stuff like that. That's beautiful, Melanie. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you are. Yeah. And, you know, I always say luck is good karma. And karma is really receiving what you've put out there. That's all it is. It's cause and effect. So when you're getting this now in return at the time that you've needed, and it's like the universe has showed you, you know, as you say, you thinking you were going to be sick again, and oh my gosh, what's it going to be like now? I'm expecting what you had previously, and here's something is completely. He's a good hugger.
It was really nice.
Is he a good hugger, Mel?
Yes, more so than me. Yeah.
Well, he's clearly teaching you. You see, that's beautiful.
And I felt that in my healing, I thought this is the first relationship that I actually chose. So I felt good in that sense. I consciously thought this is the person for me. The other ones I fell into or slipped into or didn't even really want to be in, but sort of thought I should be in. So it feels promising that a lot of the personal growth and all that too has led me in the direction to now see a better quality person out there and see the whole person, not just like the narcissistic person who's not really whole. My skin crawls around any sort of energy like that now. I can't be around it. So I think that's really great. It's just, it feels like that I'm a lot more in tune that way with things, where the universe is looking after me in that sense. And I literally just crawls. I just, like, even watching a TV show, and I just didn't like one of the characters, and in all intents and purposes, the character should have been wonderful, and everyone around me was saying that they were lovely, but I couldn't stand this person. And then at the end, it was a complete twist, and that person was a true narcissist and lied the whole way through. And I felt so thrilled. I thought, yeah, I can even see through it on that.
Exactly. Well, exactly. It makes you an expert now. You know, that's the whole thing. When you've been through that journey, you now become an expert at smelling that deception and that type of character. It really does. So that's been the gift of the healing and the process. Wow. That's beautiful, Melanie. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us around that.
Thank you.
It's quite intense, you know. I mean, wow, 15 years is a long time to have someone continuously break you down each and every day, and that at the end of it all, you woke up and on the healing journey. That's really beautiful. So, I mean, what do I say? Congratulations. That really is congratulations. You know, that's really cool. Thank you, Melanie. I'm wondering, you know. Yeah, I think for all of us, every single day, you know, it's a path, you know, it's a step along the path. And for sure, talking and sharing is also indicative of where you're at in your healing. It's not easy to share on a public platform, for sure.
No.
I much appreciate you, Mel. Thank you very, very much. But
Thank you for having me
I'm
on
wondering
again.
if there's, yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you want to maybe just wrap it up with, or and you know, if is there any way that you do you have a website, or you just not are you just sharing right now? Is there anything you're doing that you want to share links or anything
Yeah,
to?
I'm still sort of doing the kangaroo work with Joanne, so all her details um, about Home Farm Sanctuary is how people can reach me as
Yeah,
well, probably. But yeah,
that
I'm
website's
still
going to
on the
be up very
healing
soon.
journey. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting back into Joey's. I've had to have some time off due to not being well, and once I sort of recoup some costs with my surgery and stuff, then I'm looking forward to getting back into getting hopefully a couple of pinkies, the real little ones. So yeah, I'm looking forward to life getting
Yes.
back in a good way.
Are we going to have more babies up for adoption soon?
Yes, I'm
I
hoping
hope
so.
not. I actually hope not, because that's just tragic,
I know,
you know.
I know, but there
But
definitely will
anyway,
be some, even though we don't want it, but we love it when we get them.
right?
Yeah.
I would too. It's like on the farm growing up. I could not wait if there were little lambs and little calves,
Oh,
right, that lost their mothers. They
mums.
came and they stayed in the house, and we
Oh, how
had an
beautiful.
Argus
Yeah.
stove. Yeah, that you know the Argus stove is like the one that stays warm the whole night. So they
Yeah.
would be. We'd put a blanket in front of the stove and they'd be sleeping there. And I used to bring my bedding, my eiderdown, we used to call it my eiderdown and my pillow, into the kitchen and sleep with them. It was my
Sleep with that's
best. It was my absolute best. Yeah. And
that does
feed
sound perfect.
them and yeah, do all these amazing things. So yeah,
Yeah,
baby animals. I like
yeah,
them a lot
yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
to this day. Indeed. Thank you, Melanie. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
we really appreciate you and your story. And we'll definitely be catching up with you again along the line and see how things are going with you. And
Yep.
yeah, so inspirational. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it too. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, everybody. Then I'm going to see you all later again on Leo's show. And up until then, have a beautiful day. Take good care of yourselves. And remember, live your life like it's golden.